So you're up in New York, and then you got basically banished from the region. He said, "Get the hell out of here, David. You're causing too much trouble. Go down to Florida."
What?
No, that's not what happened. Oh, that's what Elon told me. No, I'm just kidding. No, I did not talk to Elon about this. Full disclosure, that's a joke. Anyway, so you did get sent down to Florida. Why? What happened? Who did you piss off?
Basically, no. It was.
It's because you were so good.
It was out of need, definitely. But I was part of the delivery team, and then and I might have mentioned this in a previous video, but I was part of the delivery team, and there's this role called asset light that I saw internally, and I had no idea what it was, and so I called my buddy Brandon in Palo Alto, and it turned out it was kind of that role is kind of the Johnny Appleseed of Tesla. It's a person that goes into a region to develop market presence. So it's kind of a precursor to brick and mortar locations.
I'm not even kidding. Today is Johnny Applesead Day.
It's really the best analogy. So it's kind of like, oh, look at that.
Oh my God, look at that smoke. We obviously need some electric garbage
superchargers
truck. Construction vehicles.
Diesel soot behind it.
Anyway, so you were the Johnny Appleseed.
Yeah, so basically, I think there were 2 retail locations in Florida at the time, and they were both in the Miami area. So they sent me down, and outside of Florida, or outside of Miami, at that time, if you wanted to see or drive a Tesla, it was just me, an iPad, and a car. They gave me a P85 Model S, and it was kind of just door to door. I'd sign people in their kitchen. Yeah, inside sales would book the test drives, and I had a map of Florida in my study in my house, and I literally plotted out. There are no superchargers when I first came down, so I strategically picked Sarasota because it split the Gulf, so I could shoot down to Naples if I needed to. I could shoot up to North Tampa, Temple Terrace.
And I thank you greatly for that. You've created a great. We have a supercharger here. We have a great community of Tesla drivers.
How far we've
even
come.
A service center now.
Yeah, well, yeah, it was really awesome. It's really cool to think is when I came down in 2013, there are like 2 Tesla retail locations, and now there are, I forget the exact count, but like over 15, right? I mean,
in Florida.
In the state of Florida.
Mm-hmm.
That's astounding. The amount of growth. So it's been really awesome. There were no superchargers. Now we're standing at a 20 stall supercharger.
We can get a better view here.
What's really cool is I was at the ribbon cutting for the first supercharger in Florida, which is hilarious because back then they used to do. It was such a big deal when a supercharger opened. They'd have like ribbon cutting, and people would bring their Model S's from far and wide, and there was media there. And it's just so funny that now supercharger openings have become so frequent that it doesn't really. I don't say it doesn't warrant it because each supercharger location is a huge victory and a huge advancement, but they're happening so rapidly, the deployment so rapidly, you can't have a media event at each one. It'd be like whack-a-mole, you know?
Yeah.
So, and now we're hearing that there's gonna be a V3 supercharger in Clearwater, which is super awesome. So that's another first for Florida, and which is super, super exciting. So it's really crazy to think that in 2013, there's all this pageantry and fanfare for one supercharger.
It's also funny because obviously you mentioned Johnny Appleseed, but it's really like this is a good location. Obviously you picked it for a reason for Tesla. It's a good market for Tesla, but it's a pretty mature. There's a pretty big market for Teslas. It seems like there's a lot of Tesla sales here, and I wonder how much of that is because it was like where you set down shop early on, and you had that time now for a word to get out, for people to see the store for years, for people to sort of slowly see more and more. And I wonder how much, like, if you did that in another location, Clearwater, whatever, another spot, how much that might have stimulated the market, and then led to a supercharger, which stimulated the market more, led to a service center, which we just got, which stimulates the market more. So I wonder how much that Johnny Appleseed activity, like if Tesla had the ability to do that with like 100 times more, what the result would have been.
Correct. Yeah. Because the things that we learned about Tesla is one, it's education. People need, once you have the information of what the product is and what it's capable of, it's a no-brainer. Most of the objections that people have to adopting electrification or particularly Tesla is based on misinformation. They have preconceived notions that are inaccurate, and we have to address those and say, oh well, actually, what we found is this, and then people go, oh, I always thought it was this, and that was what was holding them back. And so you have education, one, and then two, peer influencer is the other thing. So when Bob at the office is like, oh, I got Tesla, you got to get one, so we're starting to see that, or Bob down the block has got one. Then all of a sudden you start seeing more Teslas in the driveways because that peer influencer at the country club they're like, how do you like it, Bob? Oh my God, it is great. You got to get one.
Well, one more after this construction trucker.
Yeah, excuse me.
One more.
Aftershock.
And what was it? So when you planted here, you started going door to door. What was what was the reaction? Was there much? There was like any knowledge of Tesla? Was there any FUD circling at that time?
First, there's always FUD has always been there. The initial people, what inside sales did were they basically email blasted people who had that hit the website and were interested in a test drive, and they just didn't have that capability in this region. So basically reached out to those people and said, hey, we have test drive capability in your region now, and that's how we started booking them.
So you weren't dealing with the public really. You were dealing with early interested.
I still do a lot of guerrilla marketing activity. Like I just parked the car like a pimp, like on a sidewalk, just so people would have to basically trip over the thing. And I'd be signing people up for test drives on the iPad. Like I'd go to the marina in St. Pete's.
And so was it a similar like oh wow for everyone back then as it is now, or was it a different oh wow? Was it like was it anything different about 2013? I
think now it's. I've heard about Tesla, and then when they experience it, that's where the oh wow is. Where they're like, oh, I've heard about it, but then even hearing about it has not prepared them to experiencing it.
Yeah.
Where back then they had not heard about it, and so it was like, what's this? And I called it the with the Model S, the original Model S was just rear wheel drive, and the front trunk was much larger because there wasn't that front drive unit. So I used to sit in the front trunk with my iPad and just like wave people in to talk about the car. I called it the Framic, where we used the front trunk as a hammock. And so I'd be sitting there with my legs hanging out there, and people right away, there's a guy sitting under where the engine is in a sedan, so they'd stop in their tracks right away. And they'd be like, what is this? And then I'd keep the door open, they'd see the screen, and that was kind of the bait. That was like the bait hook.
Yeah, exactly.
And then I'd say, hey, you want to take a hot lap? And they'd be like, yeah, we just do this like hot lap around the block in St. Pete's or something. Or if I was downtown Sarasota.
Sold.
Sold. And back then it was 4.2 seconds was the P85, which we take it for granted now. We've been so jaded. It was 0 to 60 times. But back then, that was
even now, that's bloody fast. That's insanely fast.
Yeah.
Insane mode is still a thing. It's still insane. Even if there's ludicrous and Plaid, it's like, it's wild.
One of the things when people were considering a Tesla, what was really fascinating was people assumed that it would be their second car. They're like, oh, this would be the car for around town. And then what we tell them, and we found this anecdotally, we were like, almost immediately, the Tesla will become the primary car of the house. It'll be the car that is driven the most. And
There's
those
also a lot of cases where someone got a Tesla, their spouse didn't necessarily want it, and then the spouse stole it very quickly. So then they had to, either get another one or wait until the right time to get another one. But a lot of, I think on the Tesla Motors Club forums, I would say not unhappy. I think a lot of them were happy that their spouse ended up, becoming enthusiasts and stealing their car. But at the same time, it's like, I want my car back, or I can't wait to get a Tesla because my wife stole mine or something. Did
I tell you that story about Kirby, an owner down here, where he's one of my first drives, and he got a white 85, and it was going to be to take his wife out to dinner, and stuff. And he had a Corvette Grand Sport that he tuned to over 200 miles an hour. I think it was a beast, this Corvette that he had. So the Corvette was going to be his fun car, and then the Model S would be for his wife because it was big and safe and go out to dinner and things like that. And what we found with families is there's this kind of friendly War of the Roses that begins with couples there's a one Tesla home, where he was starting to set his alarm like an hour earlier in the morning, and then he would leave. And then she'd be like, "You took the Tesla again."
Oh, I was up earlier. You
didn't... Yeah. So he would take the Tesla to volleyball practice or whatever he did in his retired life, and so he traded in his Corvette Grand Sport for a P85D when they came out. In the P85D.
Yeah, no, I mean, this is obviously a thing already in the multi-Tesla households, but it's definitely growing with the Model 3 now too. You see a lot of households popping with a couple of Model 3s because it's all of a sudden a whole huge another bracket of people can do that. And
Kirby got a performance Model 3 recently.
Yeah, and I mean, I saw this guy Dennis on Twitter from California, sort of active in this Twitter scene and on Tesla scene. Really nice guy. He posted something about about these multi-Tesla households popping up, and there was someone had a picture of four Teslas in the household, I think, so you had a driveway with 4 Teslas there. It's happening obviously in some places, but then you think about the Model Y coming and the pickup coming, and so many people they want the crossover, they want to pick up. So there's going to be really a huge growth in Tesla only families, I think, when those models hit the
because what's really fascinating particularly with Model S, and now we're seeing with Model 3, is that people were switching vehicle genres.
Yeah.
So we'd get trade-ins for Model S. We'd get trade-ins for in extreme cases like Hummers.
Yeah.
And but you would see necessarily. It's so funny.
That's not a Hummer. That's
one of those
Mustang.
artificial sound noisemakers at electric vehicles. But so you'd see these people would be trading in this spectrum of different kinds of cars. It was so funny when I first started at Tesla. I flew out to Palo Alto for training just to illustrate how the mindset had changed. There was one marketing Model S, in the tri-state area, New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, one in existence. And back then it was a $5,000 deposit.
That's crazy.
And back then, this is obviously had changed, but you had to put down the deposit to even drive it.
Wow.
And and people were driving from Boston to spend a half hour in a car that they put $5,000 on they'd never seen. So, but there was this festival. It's called Live Green Connecticut, and it was on a Saturday. And I was on the delivery team, but I was helping. It was I just joined Tesla, and it was be my first solo drive in a Model S. Any given distance. It was 45 miles outside of New York City, and it was on a Saturday, and they had executive meetings trying to decide whether this one car should go. And it was
top level Tesla people. It was about one car, one region.
It was such an asset. I mean, I think it was VIN 105 or something, and it was a silver Model S. I remember, 85.
But so let's sort of do a kind of fast forward. 2013, 14, 15. What any crazy stories that popped out in those years, sort of, ramping up Model S production demand, that the stock market obviously the stock price exploded for Tesla.
That was hilarious because, in the summer, when I started with Tesla, the stock, it was like mid-20s, like 20...
High five on that foresight, starting right at the...
I knew nothing about stock. I still know very little. All I know about stock is that I have a lot of Tesla stock that they gave to me. So, and then,
gave you at a very low price.
Yeah, it's really nuts. And back then, like I've said before, we were like, it might be like $50 one day. Like that would be crazy. Can you imagine it might like that?
Doubling.
And the fact that it's eight times more now is ridiculous. And so people are like, oh, this stock is really hurting. I'm like, no, not not me.
It's like, from my perspective, it's looking pretty good.
Yeah, it's great. And it's still in its infancy. This is not stock advice, but if you extrapolate, back then, no one, if you had said, oh, the stock's gonna be over $200 in 2012, people would have thought you were insane. Much like if
that would be an
said,
ARK Invest kind of fringe estimate, right?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. They'd be like, that's nuts. Just as if back then, and Elon famously said, who of you 5 years ago would have said that there were this many Teslas on the road? He said this on a call. He's like, I'm gonna say none of you. Yeah. He said, so I would think twice before you doubt what Tesla's capable of.
Production ramped up in 2013. Sales started ramping up. Here, I imagine did it start to get like steady, or was it a continuous growth phase for you here? What was it like going like 2013 to when was the X? X was 2015.
The end of 15.
So 2013 to 15 or so.
Yeah, I would say funny, if you talk about funny stories from 13 going into 14. So I moved down here end of July. So I trained in Dania Beach, which is a beach green, which is like basically Fort Lauderdale. And then came up here. My wife and I still hadn't found a place, so we were actually squatting in my in-laws' condo. They're snowbirds, so they weren't there, so stood there. And I was working with inside sales to do drives, and I would just kind of strategically plot out, like, okay, like how long does it take to get there? How long does it do the drive? And then I would, in their living room or kitchen, on the iPad, we'd design the car and order it. And I used to think, how many people? I knew the cars were amazing. I knew that they were going to change the world. I truly believed that. Like, I knew it was going to be a huge, massive hit. But the sales numbers they were talking about, which I met and exceeded, I was like, wow. I wonder who will buy these cars. But then if you do a nice little trick, if you go on Google Earth and just go to the coast of the Gulf Coast and just scroll down, it's just thousands and thousands and thousands of multi-million-dollar homes on the ocean.
Yeah.
And all those homes have garages, and all those garages have cars in them. And so it's just a matter of
reaching those people.
Reaching those people. Astonishingly, that wasn't our primary demographic, but we had school teachers. We had a couple that they were retired school teachers. They drove 2 Priuses. They traded them both in for one Model S. But the inside salespeople, is a funny story. I might have said this before. I don't know. I got an email. Dave, who's the head of marketing for the region at the time, he was an old school Tesla guy from the Roadster days. I was at the gym really late at night, which was novel for me to be able to go to the gym. I was very proud of myself. And then I got an email, and it said, "Hey, just so you know, we sent an email blast out." Oh, because what started happening was I was going door to door, and then we decided there was a service center in Tampa, and there still is the one on 301. It's kind of a legacy location. They said, "Hey, you know what? We're gonna just have everyone come to that location, and you can operate out of there." So kind of hunker down into a brick and mortar location, and you can just do sales out of the service center, and people will pilgrimage up there, hour drive from here. So people were doing it. People were coming from Naples, Orlando. It was actually incredible how far people were willing to come to drive. And so I started doing them out of Tampa. So I drive up to Tampa every day. So I have the one test drive car that I was my daily driver. So I drive up there, drive around all day, drive back, and but anyway, so Dave sends this this email out. He's like, hey, just so you know, we sent this email blast out to like thousands of people in the area that had expressed interest in driving Model S. I'm like, okay. I scroll down, and it's like Tesla. I'm kind of paraphrasing something like Tesla store now open in Tampa. Come on down and drive Model S today or something. I'm like, I wonder how this will go. I show up the next day, and there is a line of people out of the service center, and the service concierges are just trying to
like,
accommodate them.